Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and I can be reached at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Every week, we take a look at the Villages real estate market specifically and discuss the real estate market generally. If you're interested in buying a home in the Villages and you're trying to determine a good price, or you're interested in selling your home and you're trying to determine a price that it will sell at in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Be happy to advise you or answer any questions you have. Also, if you have any questions about life in the Villages itself, feel free to reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Couple of points to make before we start. We produce this show every week. Make sure that you check the date to ensure that you're getting the most recent information. The second point is that all of this information is drawn from the multiple listing service. It does not include any properties from the village's own internal listing service, the VLS. For that reason, if you're a buyer, you really should have two agents working for you. Otherwise, you will only be seeing about half of the available properties for sale. Similarly, if you're a seller, you'll need to decide whether you want to list your home on the VLS or the MLS. So, with that out of the way, let's turn our attention to what's happening this week. As usual, we start by taking a look at the US government's 10-year note yield. This is the yield that most closely tracks the mortgage rate, and it is encouraging to see that it appears as if the short term top has been put in. We are currently under 4.5 on the 10-year, and I believe mortgage rates are heading lower from 7.5 as we speak. It's hard to determine whether this reduction in interest rates will meaningfully impact the market. Sellers have been slow to recognize the effects that higher interest rates are having on the buyer's ability to finance purchases, but we'll see. It's encouraging, at least, that for the moment, the trend in rates might be lower. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening in the villages itself. As always, we start by taking a look at total listings this week, numbering 352, down slightly from the 358 of last week, and up from the 263 that was in effect the same week last year. Currently, homes available for sale in the villages range from 162,500 to just under $2.6 million. Obviously, the number of new listings is hovering near recent highs. A lot of our staff are out of town for the Thanksgiving holidays, and we aren't able to break down the data by geographic region this week. So, what we're looking at this week is the entirety of the villages, north, middle, and south. If you've been following the show recently, you know that we've broken the areas down in terms of price per square foot and median size. The more south you go, it seems the more expensive the home, both in size and in price per square foot. But this week, we're looking at the villages as a whole. Median listing price this week, 260.74 a foot, little change from the 260.81 of last week, and very slightly down from the 268.87 that was in effect the same week last year. As you look at these graphs, please note that the figures that you see are actual weekly figures, whereas the graph itself reflects a 4-week average. Here we look at median time on the market for all listings. We are not looking at a 4-week moving average this week, specifically because we are at the highest level that we've seen since we began doing this show almost 3 years ago. The previous longest median listing time was 59 days on the 31st of July of this year. This week, it's 60 days, up from 56 days last week and up from 46 days the same week a year ago. As I mentioned, these graphs are generally 4-week moving averages, but when you see the 4-week average struck, that means that you're looking at actual weekly data. Here's another look at listings. Here we're looking at what percentage of listings have been on the market for 100 days or longer. This week it's 76 out of the 352 listings, which is 22%, up slightly from the 19% of listings that this held true for last week. As I mentioned, we are short staffed this week. We're not going to be breaking the villages down into geographic regions. We're only going to be showing you information for the villages as a whole. We will get back to the regional distinctions next week. This is a graph we've been following for some time now. This graph gives us some perspective as to how many homes are entering the market every week, i.e., new listings, and how many homes are leaving the market every week, i.e., homes going pending. Last week, there were 22 new listings compared to 40 the previous week. Homes going pending increased very slightly from 21 to 22. This compares to 18 for the same week a year ago. It's encouraging, at least, that the number of new listings and homes going pending is equal. Last week, there were twice as many new listings. This week, we don't see the same effect on the number of listings. Here's a quick update on a graph that caused much distress when we first started looking at it, the difference between new listings and pending home sales, basically giving us an idea as to how many homes are entering or leaving the market. We are back to the zero line. Any number that is positive represents more homes going pending than homes being newly listed. Conversely, if that number is negative, it means that there are more new listings than homes going pending and that supply is increasing. We are at least back to zero this week. Here's another look at pending home sales. So this is the median price per square foot for the homes going pending. This week it's 271.13 compared to 263.61 last week, and up noticeably from the 253.77 that was in effect for the homes that went pending the same week a year ago. Here we look at the median time on the market for the homes that went pending last week. 18 days, the median time, compared to 47 days the previous week, and compared to 21 days for the same week a year ago. Once again, please note that the figures you see are actual weekly data points, and the graph is representing a 4-week moving average. Here we take another look at homes going pending. This time we're looking at what the price change was from the original listing price for those homes that went pending last week. The median price change was a reduction of 2.33%, a big improvement from the 8.32% reduction that was in effect the previous week, and very much improved from the 7.97% median reduction that was in effect this same week a year ago. As you look at this graph, please note this is the lowest reduction that we've seen since we started plotting this data point. And here's another look at homes going pending. This time we're trying to determine how enthusiastic buyers are if they find a house they like as it hits the market. 6 of the 22 homes that went pending within 7 days of being listed, which is 27.27%, very much improved from the almost 5% that was in effect the previous week. Here we take a look at sales that closed over the last week. They numbered 14 compared to 35 the week before, and even lower than the 18 that we saw the same week a year ago. Prices on the homes that closed last week ranged from $285,000 to just under $775,000. The graph is a 4-week smoothed average, so I've included this graph, which is the raw data, and you can see the number of sales is plumbing lows that we haven't seen in quite some time. Over the last year, at least, the November through January period has been the slowest in terms of homes closing. Now we'll take a look at the median price realized for the homes that closed last week. 259 up from 244 the week before, and up dramatically from the 239 a square foot median price that was in effect a year ago. Once again, please note the figures are actual weekly data and the graph is a smooth 4-week average. Another look at sales, this time looking at how long they were in the market before going pending. The median time on the market for the homes that closed last week was 34 days compared to 29 days the previous week and compared to 20 days for the same week a year ago. The graph represents a 4-week average. Here's another look at the homes that closed. Here we look at how they were financed. You can see the total number of sales plunging recently. The brown line, the total number of sales, the blue line, the cash buyers, and the others as described. This gives you some idea as to how important cash sales are here in the villages. Once again, by far the majority of the sales are cash sales. Interestingly enough, this week it's very interesting to note that there appears to be a sale where somebody was able to assume a mortgage. One wouldn't have thought that would be very easy to do these days. And here's our last look at the homes that sold and closed over the last 7 days. The number that went pending within 7 days of being listed is 5 out of the 14 sales. compared to 36% last week. Here we take our final look at the totality of all listings, and here we look at what percentage have decreased their asking price from the original list price. This week it's 50.28% of listings compared to 47.77% last week, but it's still an improvement from the almost 54% of listings that had reduced their asking price the same week a year ago. And as I mentioned earlier, the graph is a 4-week average, whereas the figures are actual weekly data. And finally, we look at what the actual percentage decrease was. The median decrease for all listings in the villages last week was a reduction of 3.82% from the original listing price, slightly worse than the 3.72% median reduction that was in effect the previous week. But this is still improved from the 4.96% median reduction in effect a year ago. The graph is an average, the figures are actual numbers. So that concludes this week's look at the Villages real estate market. If you're interested in buying a home in the Villages, you'd like to do some research to find out what a good price might be for a specific area, or you'd like to see what homes have sold or gone pending in the recent past in a specific area, I'll be happy to help you formulate an offer. Similarly, if you are a seller looking to maximize your return in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me. I'm at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'm happy to assist buyers and sellers alike, and I'm also happy to answer questions about life in the Villages generally. I hope to hear from you. Take care.